Andrews, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar, has warned of escalation of violence in Myanmar. He has said he is terrified of an escalation in violence in Myanmar as thousands of people on Wednesday stepped up their campaign against the military coup. The protesters are calling for big rallies on Wednesday to shatter the army's claims that it has widespread backing of the February 1 coup and that many people supported its move to seize power from civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who was returned to office in a landslide in elections held in November. Andrews said that he had received reports of troop movements around the country and was worried the protesters were facing real danger. I fear that Wednesday has the potential for violence on greater scale in Myanmar than we have seen since the illegal takeover of the government on February 1, Andrews said in his statement. I am terrified that given the confluence of these two developments, planned mass protests and troop converging, we could be on the precipice of the military committing even greater crimes against the people of Myanmar. As internet networks came back to life after the third nightly blackout in a row, protests appeared to be attracting more people than in recent days in Yangon, the country's biggest city. Crowds of protesters, including civil engineers, teachers, and other government workers, gathered at key locations including the UN office, carrying banners calling for Aung San Suu Kyi to be freed and the military to leave. There were also mass breakdowns as people stopped their vehicles on roads and junctions, some with their bonnets raised in an act of civil disobedience, and their drivers at a loss to explain the problem. Myanmar's military has a history of violence and impunity during the decades that it ruled the country before the transition to democracy began 10 years ago. Armed Forces Chief Minang, who led the coup, also directed 2017 crackdown on the Rohingya in the western state of Rakhine, which the United Nations has said was carried out with genocidal intent. The security forces' approach could take an even darker turn fast, the International Crisis Group warned in a briefing released on Wednesday. Soldiers and armored vehicles have begun to reinforce the police lines, and should the generals become impatient with the status quo, could easily become the sharp end of a bloody crackdown, as has happened in the past. News Desk Kaumudy, English.